And we're live. Drew Lasky is in the building, baby.
What's up, baby?
Mr.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. We do what we want. If Austin Powers was around, I feel like he would vibe with that.
I feel like I would too.
He would say, groovy, baby.
Two goofballs getting along.
Two goofballs. First of all, we're here in Miami. We OG from 518, upstate New York. We're living in Miami. We're doing it. I want to start this off by getting a good cheers in real quick to one of my best friends of all time. So glad you came out here, man. Can you imagine if you never came out here? Life would have been so different.
It's funny. I mean, I feel like I moved down here, and then I think you moved down like 2 weeks later, and didn't even know that you were down here. I think you messaged me on Facebook, which I barely use anymore, and then I was invited to this party in Midtown, and dude, you just showed up. You walked right through the door, and I was like, no way. And dude, we've been really close ever since, and it's been a lot of fun, man.
It's interesting. The day one thing hits different. You know, you meet a lot of great people in life, and I'm really grateful to have a lot of, you know, amazing humans in my life. But just this weekend, I was hanging out at Clough for his wedding.
Yep.
And a lot of the old Shaker friends were there, and it was just, it's a different energy when you've known someone for over a decade plus. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's cool for you because I kind of knew you. Like we knew of each other throughout high school, but we never really chilled. Our squads didn't really chill.
Mm-hmm.
And but you were always motivated. You were always hungry. And to see what you've done over the past few years is unbelievable. You know, I remember you first came here and you told me that you needed to get away from the party. You needed to get away from the distractions.
Yep.
You needed to get away from the wildness, because inside of that heart of Drew is an absolute gem of a person, but there's also a complete savage that that will implode if not contained.
Yep.
And you did it, man. You came out here. You are one of the most successful salespeople I know. Actually, probably the most successful salesperson I know, especially within our age group. And you play it off so nonchalantly. It's really amazing where you've come, man. Like, I'm so proud of you.
I appreciate that, man. You know, a lot of people, you know, they come to Miami and they come to party. You know, people tell me I'm crazy because I was partying a lot in New York, and then I just got sick of it. I woke up one day, first time ever, like feeling a little bit of like depression and anxiety. And I was just like, you know, I was in the middle of COVID, and I was like, hey, like, I'm not going to reach my full potential if I stay here. And at the time, Miami was one of the only places that was actually open, and came down here. And yeah, you know, I'll go out to the clubs, you know, every once in a while. And, you know, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't party nearly as much. I would say most of the partying that I actually do is when I'm outside of Miami, going home, visiting my friends, just traveling around. That's when most of the party actually happens. Doesn't really happen that much when I'm down here.
Yeah, but it's work hard, play hard, and you do a good job that when you do party, it's with, you know, you're building bonds.
Yeah.
And I do think that drinking a beer with someone, smoking weed with someone, it's the best way. Unfortunately, sure, you can go hike a mountain like some of those people say, but you build a great relationship sometimes when you share a vice with somebody.
Yep. For sure. And hopefully that vice is a cigar.
Hopefully that vice is a cigar. Thank you, man. And by the way, shout out for you for being one of cigars.com, if not top supporters from the beginning.
I appreciate that, man. I mean, look, I told you right in the beginning, you know, met with you and Matt. I forget where we were. We were on some, where were we? I don't even know where it was. We're on some like deck or something. And you were telling me about the...
It was Matt's old building in Brickell.
On the top.
Yeah.
And you were telling me about how you wanted to have like these meetups, and, you know, that you're creating the cigar company, how you wanted to have, you know, influencers in different categories, you know, stand behind the product. And dude, you're doing it. And exactly what you talked about is what you're doing. And I told you right from the beginning, A, I thought it was a really good idea. But B, I was like, hey, man, when you open it up to investors, I want to be the first one, because I truly believe in it, and I see how passionate you are about it.
And you will be. And you just brought up a great point. And first off, I love that you just nailed that story. That's exactly what happened. And it got me fired up about the idea of doing. Is a lot of people are stuck in a circle of thinking and thinking and thinking about thinking.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough. Most people are perfectionists. I know I am. I know you are. But sometimes we have to get out our own way and just take the first step. Record the first podcast. Send the first email. You know, pitch your first product. And what I love about your work ethic is you're a doer. You don't just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
talk me through where that came from. Have you always been that way?
Well, as far as the work ethic, it's always been there. I played sports growing up. But as far as being a perfectionist, I know you just said that, I'm far from a perfectionist. And when I think of a perfectionist, I think of somebody that isn't taking action. They have a task to complete. They keep changing everything to make it perfect, but it never is perfect. And they never actually accomplish anything and get anything done. And so for me, I think my biggest strength is I just know like half of what I need to know to feel comfortable to jump in. I jump in, I make mistake after mistake. I call it failing forward. And that's gotten me to where I am today, and we still have a lot more of where, we want to go. But, once you feel like a little bit, stop the analysis paralysis nonsense and just take a step forward and go. Make mistakes. Who cares?
I love what you said about failing forward. Another way of saying it is fail fast.
Yeah.
The best companies, the best CEOs that, and this is just from learning from having people on the podcast and listening to them. They're really good at building, they're the conductor and their team is the orchestra, and they're really good at conducting experiments at a very fast, sometimes scale.
Yep.
And the faster you can learn what doesn't work, the faster you can learn what does work.
Through experience.
And it's interesting because, in sales is one of the most amazing and depressing sports there is, because you make 100 calls and maybe you get one sale. That one sale could be $50K, but those 99, it's hard sometimes to keep your chin up, and stay smiling.
Yep.
But in that business and sales, you have to think about failing fast because every time you get a no, you're closer to a yes. What do you think about that?
Yeah, 100%. Sales is one of those things where, hey, it's a grind and every day isn't pretty. Some days you'll have, some weeks you'll have back-to-back days where you're just not getting the results that you want. But I call it the law of averages, like kind of what you just said. Every single door, every single phone call, every single no that you get is going to be closer to a yes. And when you break it down to the amount of calls or the doors that you hit, you're pretty much getting paid per door that you're hitting when you break down that big commission of all the work that it took to get that commission. Yeah,
and I want to break it down for the audience and brag a little bit more about you, specifically in the field you're in. You're in the medical device field, and I got one word, and it's lasers, baby.
Laser beams.
Straight laser beams. Everyone needs a good laser treatment from time to time.
Yep.
And it's amazing because there's a lot of cool industries. There's real estate, there's retail, there's software as a service, there's crypto, there's all sorts of different fields you can get into, finance, etc. And, we're really close, and I've seen how successful you've become. You're in a really profitable and very difficult field where it's cutthroat. You either make it or you don't. A lot of people try. A lot of people fail. It's like the Navy SEALs of sales. Tell me about how you got involved with that.
Yeah, so I got pretty lucky to get in at like such a young age. I think I was 24 years old or 25, and I did door-to-door sales for 2 years. And what ended up happening was I ended up starting my own company at 22 and then failing at 23 in Baltimore. Then I ended up moving back up to New York.
What was that company?
It was door-to-door sales, MLM, something similar to like what you're doing with Vima. And we were selling like phone, internet, TV, Verizon, energy. And, it wasn't anything that I wanted to do long term. It's just that I was good at it. And like Verizon asked me to go open up an office down in Baltimore and be a business owner and be like their vendor. And I said, you know what? Let me try this out. Let me give it a good year. And we had ups and downs. I had, a couple very, very good months where I was like, okay, this could actually turn into something. But then, I think it was like month 8, something happened where I started losing a lot of employees, just one thing after another. And I had that like moment with myself saying, hey, like, is this something that I want to keep doing? Is it what I've always wanted to do? And the answer was no. I always wanted to use that as a stepping stone to get into medical device sales. And the reason why I wanted to get into medical device sales was always so that I could make a lot of money and save it and invest in real estate. And so when I was failing that business, I think it was like 2 weeks before my lease was ready to be renewed. And I told the landlord, I was like, nope, we're shutting everything down, going back up to New York. I ended up interviewing with 5 different medical device companies. And it's so funny, like the 4 out of the 5 were hospital based, and 1 was business to business sales, just like what I was doing with the company with Verizon. And I meet this guy. His name is Scott Carton. And dude, the guy like literally changed my life. In the interview process, I could tell that, hey, if I follow this guy and follow his footsteps, my life is going to be completely different. And you know how you could just tell when like someone's genuine and like you know they seem like very trustworthy, and they actually are. You can tell by the passion that they have. And totally. I was the youngest candidate interviewing, and I went full like 8 Mile in or B Rabbit in 8 Mile, where I was like, look, I know I have no capital experience. I know I'm the youngest. I know you have people that are probably a lot better at sales than I am, but you're not going to have anybody that's going to outwork me. You give me 3 months and you're not happy with my performance, fire me. Dude, I was saying things in the interview process that probably nobody else has ever said, and I think that's what made me stick out. And I ended up getting the position over people that had years of capital experience, medical device experience as well.
That's amazing. And that guy saw that you were moldable.
Yep.
And you saw passion, and you excited the inner child in him.
I was like, I don't care about salaries. You know, I just went 2 years door-to-door sales, 100% commission. Don't give me a salary. And guess what? They ended up giving me the lowest salary possible, which is really funny.
But I love what you said there, because more people need to do that. They need to offer to work for free. Because a lot of the times, obviously, people know that they can't work for free forever. Everyone knows that.
Yep.
But showing passion for a business and showing someone you care is the biggest life hack to figure it out.
100%.
You need to take away your ego, no matter where you're at in life, and say, hey, look, I'm new to the game. And if you switch industries, you're going to also be in that situation. You're new to the game.
Every time you switch industries, you're going to have to do that. You know, I see a lot of people when we're hiring right now in lasers, they're switching industries. They're used to making a certain amount of money. And I'm like, hey, man, you're going to have to start all over. I mean, you're coming into a new industry. It's a different sales process, new products. This is the major leagues. You're going to have to start lower than where you are right now. But if you fight through it and you actually get through it, because what you mentioned before, it really is like the top of the top. It's very cutthroat. There's a lot of turnover. But if you can get through that, I mean, dude, the money really is life-changing for most people.
Totally. And what's great about selling high-ticket items is you can get high-ticket commissions. Now, there's 2 different types of sales. You can do volume sales and make a little, or you could do few sales and make a lot.
Yep.
And as I get older, the few sales that make a lot seem a lot better.
Yep. Well, it's even better when you have volume on those high-ticket sales.
Now, all of a sudden, you're,
Now we're talking big boy money.
Now you're rocking around wearing a "We Do What We Want" shirt. By the way, that American Income TikTok that went under the radar was hilarious.
It was amazing because I was hammered after the Miami Heat finals game. Shout out Miami Heat. Great season. But, I was just, walking the streets. I was at Moxie's. Me and my boy were just ripping shots of tequila. After the game, we already had like 5 or 6 doubles at the game. And this guy's like, hey, I interview people about their income. Do you want me to interview you? And I was like, sure. Like, I didn't know who that guy was.
And that's it in mind.
Like
you would have said yes to a lot of things.
That's correct. And I mean, hey, it was a funny video.
It was really funny.
I'm not embarrassed by it.
You shouldn't be. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, hey, like this is actually like really funny. So
people in the comments like, no way this guy makes that much money.
I'm like stuttering, just like you could just tell I was like literally blackout.
But your answers were really coherent. It was inspirational.
Yeah, if you say so.
There it is. If you ever, hopefully you never find yourself in what is I don't know why I'm not thinking about it, the Alcohol Anonymous. But if you did, you would lead that group, man.
Hi, I'm Drew.
Hi, I'm Drew.
Hi, Drew.
Hi, Drew. I can't drink with you, and neither can I with Chris. Shout out Chris. I just can't handle it the way you can. You can rip shots just like we were 19 still and survive.
Yeah, but, you see where it gets me.
Hopefully, if that's anywhere close to where you're at, I would drink that all day. And it's interesting, too, because it's like you've made this plan. You said, hey, I want to make a lot of money so I can get into real estate. But you actually got into real estate pretty young.
Yeah, I bought my first property back in 2019. at the end. And it's funny, I saved up all my money. I was living super below my means. And I was like, you know what? This is the time where I need to just jump in. You know, I read a lot of books. You know, I was thinking about the whole analysis paralysis thing. And I was like, I got to go. This is the time where I do it. You know, if it doesn't work out, then I'll recover. I have the whole rest of my life, you know, to do that. And it's funny because the first house I bought was $100,000 and I put $25,000 down. And at the time, that was literally everything that I had in my account. So we're closing on the property. My hand is literally shaking. As you know, you bought a couple of properties yourself. There's like 200 documents that you're signing, and it's just signature after signature, just handshaking, sweating. And you know what? Everything turned out okay. All the numbers lined up, and I haven't really had too many problems. So it's like one of those investments where you do the math. You're the one that's in control of your investment. You know, you look at stocks, you look at crypto. Real estate is the only one where you really do have full control. You can accept full responsibility, and you can get a higher return than somebody else. You know, you might be bidding up on a property against somebody else, and you know, the property manager that you decide to hire to put in there versus the other guy, it's going to have two separate outcomes. Not only that, but then you get the tenants in there. The tenants that your property managers choose also dictate the outcome, which dictates the overall return. So there's a lot of variables, but they're also predictable variables where you get to decide how that investment is. That's why I love real estate.
Same. And I love the sweat equity component, right? You put your money in the S&P 500 or in a safe Vanguard fund. And don't get me wrong, I think that's really smart to diversify. But to be able to just go and look up a YouTube video on how to do flooring and then make new floors in your house and paint it and fix it up and just get in there and get sweat equity, I think it's so good for the soul.
Yep. You've done that with both of your places. You always, every time I'm here, you're fixing something up, you're making something look nicer. And you're doing well in real estate too, man.
Well, I learned from you. I remember I asked you, I was like, "Yo, Joe, you think this is a good idea?" You're like, "Yup." You're like, as long as you stay here for 5 years, you cannot lose.
You can't lose. Real estate's a game where it always goes up. Yeah, there's 2008. You know, people were speculating, literally buying houses that they weren't even living in or renting out. Mostly, they're just buying them, keeping them empty. Hey, this investment's gonna go up, and yeah, it went up for a couple of years, and then boom, the rug got pulled out. You know, as long as you're investing for cash flow and you're doing this long term, which is what the wealth game is, you can't lose.
Yeah, and building wealth is exciting, right? Because it's very easy to make a fat salary, but if you don't check yourself really quickly, you can lose it. I'm very grateful that I had the experience in Vima because I made a pretty good amount of money in college and I lost it all. I spent it all. I didn't have any concept of savings. You know, I was driving a 335 2013 Beamer in 2013 around UNH campus. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. But I ended up losing it all, and I learned so much about money from that. And I feel that if you don't take chances, if you don't put yourself out there, you have to sometimes lose before you make change. And the best example is your health.
Yep.
Like, you need to really have shit hit the fan before you change your diet, before you stop drinking. It's just how we're wired as people. If things aren't hard, we tend to not change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like the last 2 years, I've been trying to take my health more seriously. You know, I've been getting back into the gym, 4 or 5 days a week. And I just noticed how I feel is just much better. Because I got away from it for a couple of years. So when I got back in, I feel great.
Totally. And it's the gym's exciting because if you can go to the gym, people also look at you differently. And it's not just about the physique thing. Business people look at you differently.
Yep.
If you're in shape, it's just that you instantly get a credit in front of the other guy because it just shows in the most simple form that you have discipline.
Yeah.
100%. It's a huge life hack.
Yep.
Same with starting a podcast. Huge life hack. There's like these different things I think about that almost everyone should do. They should get things that push them out to learn new things and do things that push them out of their comfort zone.
Yeah. You should always be uncomfortable. That's one of the things that I've tried to do, at least one thing on a daily basis where, hey, this feels a little weird, but the second time you do it, the third time you do it, you get more and more comfortable with it. Then you become good at it. Then you become great at it. And if it's something in business, if it's a business skill, you can monetize it.
Yeah, and let's talk about what's sitting there on your chest right now.
Let's talk
Because
about
you're
it.
in phase 3 of your master plan.
I am.
And phase 3 is investing in real estate on a big scale. So
Yep.
talk to me through what we do, what we want means to you.
Yeah, so in one word, it's freedom. And when it comes to freedom, financial freedom, you got to be financially literate, and schools don't teach it. Nobody really talks about it. Growing up, our parents are like, hey, you probably don't talk about money to your friends or ask their parents how much money they make. And so I envision where I want my life to be, and the vision is so clear. And I want to bring the people that want to do big things along with me. And there's really two things that I know that have made the most millionaires, and it's real estate and it's life insurance. And if we can combine both of them and you're making money in both sectors, I mean, dude, you can't not be wealthy long term. And so we're buying buildings right now. We're about to start a debt fund. We're getting everybody that I know involved. And it's just, I'm excited because there's going to be, so much opportunity out there, especially in Q1 of 2024. We're seeing the commercial side of real estate with the interest rates, skyrocketing, and a lot of people that had floating debt that weren't really, predicting that was going to happen. So there's going to be opportunity, and there's going to be opportunity for everybody to get involved, whether you know real estate or not. You can invest with us. You can get a consistent return. If the stock market crashes like it did back in 2008 and you're in your 50s or 60s and you're looking to retire, you're not going to be able to do that. And so we're creating a debt fund that allows you to get a consistent return backed by real estate without the volatility of the stock market, and your money's safe. That's like the most important part. This plan that we have for the debt fund, it's not going to make you super rich. It's just going to make sure that your future is better.
Interesting. So basically, a lot of times people can place their money in a couple of safe places. They can put it in a CD. They can put it in a savings account. Sometimes savings account offer as much as like 3.75% if you're in the right one, upwards to 4.5% if you're in a certain group chat with my boys, Chris and Drew. You can put it in the stock market, which sees a rate of return of 7%, which is like a really solid bet, especially, when you retire. And to be able to, the rule of thumb that you can take out 4% of your income off of your retirement nest egg and still live comfortably. But what you're offering is an even higher return. And my understanding is that because you're really good and your team that you work with is really good at sourcing great opportunities, number one, and understanding the numbers behind them. So given enough equity and capital brought in by all these different investors, it's a win-win for the firm and it's a win-win for the investors.
It's a win-win for everybody. So when it comes to the investors, imagine having the return of the stock market, but the safety of a CD. That is exactly what we are doing. If you have your money in 401k or IRA and you are 50 years or older, the moment we open this up and I reach out to you, there's no reason why you shouldn't be investing in this.
Yeah. And it's look at that. Take my money, brother. Let's go. Let's go.
Let's get it.
We do what we want.
We do what we want, baby.
I love your in your house. You got those two beautiful posters that say "We do what we want" on them.
Yep.
What company did you use for that?
Canvas World.
Canvas
I think
World
is what it is.
I think everyone needs to build their own brand.
100%.
For me, I love Damn Good Day, baby.
It's a damn good day to do what we want.
There it is. And for you to see, what it is. Now that you've had this shirt on, it gives you a different level of swag and confidence because you know what? You're pimping you. You're pimping your values. My friend Leza mentioned to me recently that everyone has to build their own philosophy in life, which is another reason why I love podcasting, because it challenges me to step out of my comfort zone. It makes me think about things differently, and it forces you to just open your mind to new stuff.
Yep.
And you got to be nimble. You got to be talking to new people. You got to be on the edge. But you develop your philosophy in life, and that's all we really have. Because as you get older, your circle gets smaller. The amount of people you hang out with gets smaller because you're just naturally you're older. You don't change is a little bit different. But I think that building that philosophy is so key. And it's interesting that you've taken your own philosophy of "we do what we want," and on the back end, it's one of the most genuine phrases.
So what I love about it is it's like you just said, it's controversial. People that have no idea what it is look at it and be like, wow, this guy is arrogant. Until this thing fully launches in 2024 and people see what it really is. I mean, hey, look, you're either going to come along with us or you got tickets, front row seat to enjoy the show.
Front row seats. And I've only went to my first NBA games thanks to you.
Hey, man, we're going to go to a lot more.
Yeah, the Miami Heat. You had like the second row tickets. It was crazy. Those are so fun when you're that close.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's a different experience.
It totally is.
Because you're in everyone's stuff.
Yep.
You're so close that everything, it's the people watching is, 90% of it for me.
Yep.
Not just obviously the basketball, but I'm not a huge basketball fan. I'm a bandwagon fan. So when the Heat were killing it, I was all up on that,
I mean, it was crazy the run that they had at the end of the year in the playoffs.
That was
and
crazy.
It was sick that got to experience that, 2 rows up behind the visitors bench on TV.
Yeah.
We do what we want on
Yeah.
TV. It's pretty cool. And I'm excited, for next year's season and being able to share that experience with you and other people.
It's interesting that what I like about your energy is you're just a big kid.
That's true.
You said something once that you've coined, that you're the most responsible, irresponsible person you'll ever meet.
100%. I mean, my friends ask me, they say, I don't know how you do what you do. They're like, I wake up the next morning, I can't even function. You're flying on planes. You're going back to Miami. You're traveling here. You're doing business deals. I'm up till 2, 3 in the morning hanging out with everybody, just being a complete degenerate. And I humbly think about, if I can just slow down on that end and just focus on my health and not do that as much, how far can we really take this thing? And we talked about earlier, but a big part of me moving from New York to Miami had a lot to do with that. But there's those moments where, hey, we're at a party or something and, we're out late. But, dude, I got responsibilities.
Right.
And so, yeah, I always say I'm the most responsible, irresponsible person. So
you got to do it, though. You're only young once.
Yep.
And in European countries, the philosophy is you work to live versus living to work in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully I got that right. Drinking is fun. I always say the damn good day philosophy. It's funny, right? Me and Sky, we just cook the most healthy meal ever. Straight meat, straight ground beef, onions, mushrooms. We eat healthy, but now I'll drink some whiskey.
Drinking some whiskey
so
on
it's
a
all
Wednesday,
about,
baby.
It's all about just making sure that you have balance.
Yep.
Life can't be perfect. So
Yep.
I love the Whoop, right? Because the Whoop tells me what my sleep score was, what my recovery score is, and it's crazy how accurate it is. I think everyone needs to get a Whoop.
Yeah, I'm afraid that if I get that, what it would show. I remember that one time, I think yours was on 1%.
Listen, we're not going to talk about that, but there was a certain trip.
I think if I had that, it would be negative, and I would have to take it off because it would just freak me out. Probably tells me my heartbeat, and I don't know. It's too healthy for me right now.
You're going to get one. I'm going to
I'll
make sure
probably
you
get
get
one.
one. You got to. It's just dope. You got to. If you really, really, really feel shitty, you can just take it off that night. Just stare at yourself in
But
the
it's also good to kind of force you and hold yourself accountable to actually be healthier, get the right amount of sleep, and live a better, healthier lifestyle.
Well, the thing is that you're built like a bear. You have a bear physique, and when you shred that up, you're gonna be straight Arnold physique.
I'm trying.
And when people aren't built like you and or have the crazy Irish ketones deep in your body that just move you forward, they can't function like you said. You have to change. But when you can, by all means, have fun. Life's about having fun, just making sure that you can be smart with it. But I want to divert real quick. I want to talk more about what you've learned within the real estate field, because I know real estate is really where your heart is. And let me take that back. You crush it in sales and you're still very serious about all those things, but you're also very open and honest on your Instagram about all these different principles in real estate. Tell me more about one of the aspects of real estate that fascinates you the most.
I think the thing that fascinates me the most about real estate is the fact that it is one of the very few industries where everybody around you can legitimately win. What do I mean by that? You buy a property, you buy it on market, the seller gets, what they want for it. They want to sell, you want to buy, you get the price you want. The agent gets paid. You come in, you do renovations, the contractor gets paid. You get a tenant in here, whatever the case may be, and you give them, good quality living, a good space to live in. The title company gets paid. Like everybody gets paid. And, there's really not many industries that are truly like that. So when it comes to we do what we want, it's all about bringing people together and everybody winning together, because I believe wholeheartedly in abundance. There's a lot of people with that scarcity mindset, which really sets them back. I don't believe in that at all. I truly believe that everybody can win. And that's like the number one thing that I love about real estate, is that it's one of the only industries where everybody can legitimately win.
If you had to play devil's advocate on that, where do you think most people screw up with real estate for the few that may, find themselves in a sitch?
I think when people try to make like a quick buck in real estate is a long-term game if you're investing. Now, look, there's many different ways to make money in real estate. You can do the fix and flip, you can do the wholesale, but those are the areas where you can actually get hurt. I mean, if you're going to do buy and hold, the chances of you like messing it up, I mean, you really got to mess it up, right? You got to miscalculate the numbers. You got to, get the wrong tenant in there, not go through the proper screening process, or, when you're trying to actually get them out, maybe you do something illegal and now they're stuck there because of what you did. Like, you really, really got to mess it up. And if you're looking for long-term, which technically what an investment is, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. It's interesting. You almost have to self-sabotage to screw it up.
Yeah. Again, that investment is all on you.
But also knowing the numbers.
Yep. And dude, it's not like the numbers are anything crazy. I was a 2-point-something GPA in college, and it's really simple. You calculate the income and you calculate the expenses. And when people calculate expenses when it comes to real estate, they just think, okay, the expenses are going to be your mortgage, it's going to be your insurance, it's going to be your taxes. And they say, okay, the income is $400 more. Well, guess what? You missed out on property management. You missed out on trash, snow removal, lawn care. You miss out on maintenance, capital expenditures, all these hidden, expenses that you should have used to calculate, the return on investment, and now you're negative. And people also, they forget to calculate closing costs. So they try to fix the numbers in their favor. They get emotional. Like, sometimes I see real estate investors where they just want to get that first deal, and they're going to switch the numbers around and do like best case scenario to really, really make it work. And if you don't have all the numbers down properly, then, I mean, you could end up with an asset that is negative producing cash flow. So
yeah, and a big thing that you hear about everywhere, right, is that interest rates are above 7%. And that becomes very tough to purchase a home when you're experiencing that type of level. It's like there's a crazy stat where back when interest rates were like 3% versus 7%, know, you can afford the same house for $300K that you can only afford for $600K or something like that at this point when you look at that disparity between interest rates. I didn't get those numbers exactly right, so don't quote me on that. But the idea is that when you're paying such a higher interest rate, you can afford less house. So what are your thoughts, though, for people right now that are sitting there saying, I'm just going to wait till interest rates come down before they make their first purchase?
Well, if you wait for interest rates to come down, here's what's going to happen. Prices are going to go up, and everybody else is going to jump in the market, and they're going to outbid you. I just bought my place this year. It's my first time buying a place for myself to live in, and I bought it with a 6.5% interest rate. And the moment that rates go down, guess what? The value of my property is going to go up, and then I'm just gonna increase my HELOC and tap into that equity. You can't do that if you're just waiting for interest rates to go down. So there's a saying, buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy. So I mean, if I'm looking to, if I'm going to be a first-time homeowner and I got money saved up, I would buy right now, because right now the inventory is still, very limited, and there's definitely not going to be a crash coming anytime soon. I was predicting that last year that was going to happen, and I was wrong.
Well, Miami was one of the few markets that grew when a lot of
it
stuff
just kept
died.
going up and up and up and up. There you saw some markets where it started to settle down a little bit and the market softened. Here in Miami, it really didn't. And again, we have limited inventory right now. Interest rates are high. If interest rates come down and the inventory is still the way it is, there's going to be nothing to buy.
Right. And what about the thought process behind refinance, right? Because that's the
I love
other
it.
idea, is that you buy high and you maybe go 2 years paying a super high interest rate, but 2 years later, interest rates drop to 4%, which, if that ever happened, I would be looking at that same principle for my own home. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's a saying where you marry the property, you date the rate. So you get in the property, the one that you want, and you get into the property that you want. That's what you're going to have for 30 plus years, or whenever you decide to sell. The rate is just temporary, and you're able. Now you got me laughing. But no, for real, like the interest rate, it's a temporary thing. You refinance later on. So I mean, and I also know a strategy where you can literally cut the rate in half.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about it, baby. So, I posted something about, I don't know, what was it, 2 months ago? Hey, just opened up my MSA, which stands for a master sweep account. You won't find it anywhere on the internet. This is like what the high elites do. I was lucky enough at one of my real estate meetups, or a group that I'm in, where they actually introduced me to this secret group, and they taught me all about this, and my mind was literally blown. You're using the government's or the bank's money, which is essentially the government's money, and you're pretty much cutting the interest rate down by the velocity of money. You're opening up an equity line of credit on your property, and you're just moving money around. So what happens is you have a HELOC, and your HELOC, when you draw money,
And for people that don't know, what's a HELOC?
that's a home equity line of credit. So you're just taking equity, pretty much like a credit card, a line of equity on the remaining portion of your house, between what you owe and whatever the bank will loan up to.
That.
Yeah. And when you look about how interest rates work, homes or mortgages, all of the interest is front loaded the first 7 years. And by the way, why do you think that is?
Because they want to make their money back and people flip too fast.
Well, because most people upgrade their home 5 to 7 years. So the bank, which again, they run the world, they're, more financially smart than anybody else. So they're like, why don't we just make a product where we get all of our money, you go and you upgrade your home, and now you're doing it all over again. And going back to the refi thing, if you refi, even when the rates go down low, and you do another 30 years, I mean, you're still going to pay, more interest, because, they want you, the bank wins no matter what.
Yeah.
And with the sweep account, you're using the bank's money against them without them really even knowing. So going back to what I was saying before, with the home equity line of credit, the interest is paid is significantly different than the amortization schedule on the mortgage. So you're pretty much just taking, let's say, hypothetical, I'm taking $50,000 from the line of credit, and now I'm applying that to the principal of the mortgage. Now what happens when you make a regular payment? The interest to principal dramatically shifts.
Oh, so you can pay more into
So
the
now you're
principal.
starting to pay more principal. versus interest. And people are going to say, okay, well, what about the equity line of credit? You got to pay that back. Yeah, you do, but you're using it now as your bank account, as your checking account, versus your checking account that's earning like 0% interest. So now you're just moving money, right? And so I'll use my example earlier. I have a 6.5% mortgage, right? So if I can dramatically decrease that 6.5, and I'm bringing down the debt that I owe on that property, and I'm using the bank's money. When you're paying down debt, you're not paying taxes on the money or the interest that you're saving. But if I put money in a CD or I put money in a savings account, and let's say I get 5%, you still got to pay taxes on that. So I'm actually at a position right now where I got my property for a lower price than I would if rates were lower. And I know how to use the banking system against the bank to dramatically shorten my mortgage. Then in about, let's say, I think I calculated it for my personal situation, it's 9 or 10 years. Then I can refi after I've paid it all off. And guess what happens when you refi and you take out a loan? It's tax free. So now let's say, hypothetical again, $1 million property. When you refi out, you do 80% loan to value, cash out refi. I'm taking $800,000 out of the property tax free. Then I go and I do the same exact strategy with the master sweep account. And then in year 20, I pull out, again, this is saying that the property didn't even appreciate. It's still $1 million.
Right.
I pull that money out again. Now I got $1.6 million tax free. So what happens is in year 30, let's say your neighbor, they bought the house, same style house for the same amount, valued at the same. Year 30, you both have your mortgages paid off. All their equity is in the property. You now have $1.6 million in cash, tax-free, and your property's paid off too. And now once you take that money, you start adding the velocity of money, doing different strategies that we'll talk about on another time. Dude, this shit gets real. Your wealth building becomes insane. And here's the best part about this. This isn't investing. This is just using the financial system against them. Yeah. Anybody can do this.
Is there any way that you can get that it cannot work? Is there any huge obvious chasms there?
So in order to get the line of credit, you have to qualify for it. So that's the biggest thing is getting the line of credit. So you gotta have a job. You obviously gotta have some equity in the property, and that's pretty much it. You just have to be able to qualify for that. And once you do, instead of using your line of credit to, I don't know, go buy a car or do some, I see people all the time, they do improvements to their home that doesn't actually increase the value. They never thought about it. Oh, I just want this, or maybe they just go and they buy luxury things with that increased equity. We're using that as a financial tool. We're tapping into the equity in our property.
So crazy.
It's crazy.
Because a lot of what you're talking about is levels 4, 5, 6 to 10, right? But the most people only know levels 1 and 2.
Yep.
The most concept of, hey, the interest rates are this is what you're going to pay over a 30-year schedule, and then boom, boom, boom. And then maybe some people know a little bit more and they can do a refinance of their house to get that new line of credit and do that. But what you're doing is you're learning just levels to this. And it's interesting because what you just talked about is something everyone can learn, but why don't most people do it?
Because they don't know about it. They don't know about it. It goes back to what I was saying earlier. Money is not taught because it's not talked about. In my industry with the medical device, with aesthetics, there was a time where patients were uncomfortable talking about sex to their providers until we came out with technology that completely changed that. And until there's a change in the school system and the upbringing of kids, we're not going to see that change, and people are still going to be financially illiterate, which is really why I want to build this brand. And because if you're not financially literate, you can't do what we're going to do.
Right.
And the goal is to bring everybody along.
Well, do you limit it to accredited investors?
Well, for the debt fund, it is going to be only accredited investors, simply because we're marketing it.
Right.
And so now when you're doing a fund, you got the SEC involved. There's a lot of laws, a lot of regulations. I definitely don't want to break those and go to jail. So, there's certain laws that we got to abide by, and you do have to be accredited. And just so your audience knows, an accredited investor, because again, this isn't taught in school, if you're single, you got to make $200,000 a year for the last 2 years. Or if you're married, I think it's 300,000 combined, or $1 million in net worth, excluding your primary residence. So if you are either or, you will then be able to invest in the fund. But it's important. Everybody should strive to be an accredited investor, because it opens you up to opportunities that, it should be basic investments.
Something that as I watch you, that makes me think about is when you first started this. I remember I had asked you about that same strategy, and you were fumbling a lot over explaining it because you were still kind of figuring it out. And to see how you just went straight, boom, 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 and just laid it out so easily to understand there. It's interesting because you've been teaching these skills on your Instagram. You've been teaching these skills through We Do What We Want. And what happens is when you learn something and then you teach it, you actually retain the knowledge on a whole nother level.
100%.
So anyone that's out there in their individual field, if you're a chiropractor, start teaching what you know on film. Because what's going to happen is you're going to learn it better. If you're a farmer, teach what you know, and you're going to learn it better. Get involved in the conversation. You're going to learn it better. Leverage social media. Don't leverage it for the wrong, leverage it for the right, which is the connective aspect, not the scroll around and just get dopamine aspect.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So social media, look, we both create content. For me, it's a little bit newer. And look, it is definitely awkward at times. But again, it goes back to what I was saying before. When you want to grow, you got to do things that are uncomfortable. And me holding up a camera, saying things, it's uncomfortable. But I've realized in order to get where I want to go, which I am 1,000% going to get there, I have to be able to leverage social media. So, there's two ways to use it, right? You can be, what you were saying before, you could scroll through and just consume content, or you can be a creator and absorb connections, be able to monetize it, use it for business. It's the same thing when it goes to, are you going to be somebody that just watches TV, or are you going to read books?
TV.
Yeah. Or are you going to read books? Are you going to be a renter, or are you going to be the landlord? Are you going to be a consumer, or are you going to be an investor? And so when it comes to social media, I think everybody should create content for their business. If you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, even salesperson, it doesn't matter. You should build a personal brand, and really the way to do that is through social media. And I look at the lives of the people that have what I want, not in an envious way or jealousy way or anything like that, but I want something very similar to what they have. Guess how they got it? Guess how they became who they are? They leveraged their talents on social media, became known, and they were able to get where they wanted to go. And so, when you're first starting out, are your videos going to be great? No, I still don't think mine are, but I do it anyway,
Your videos are great.
Thank you. And
find friends that'll say that.
But I forgot what I was saying.
No, you're crushing it. You're talking about just the reality that you need to you leverage the power of social media.
Yeah. Oh, well, what I was going to say is when you're first starting out, look, you're going to mess up. It's not going to be perfect. The people that don't want you to, I don't want to say they don't want you to succeed, but they're comfortable, and they see that you're trying to be more and get something more out of your life. They're the ones that are going to be like the crabs in the bucket, trying to pull you down, saying, hey, don't do that. Why are you doing that? And the people that are above you, looking down at you are saying, hey, that's exactly where I started. Keep going. And that's what you have to do.
I love that. And it takes years.
Yeah.
It takes years. And it sucks.
Consistency, dedication. It's it only takes, I guess, one video. I haven't had one yet, but one video to go viral. But it's all about the consistency the discipline. And if you do stay disciplined and consistent and you don't quit, that's how you get that one viral video or whatever. It could be a different aspect of your business, that one client, that one connection. Like I mentioned before, I met this guy during an interview process and said, hey, forget about all the other interviews. I'm going with this guy. It takes one other person to really change the trajectory of your life.
Totally. And I have this theory that we as people change so much every 3 years. It's almost like Leza said on the last thing. It's almost like we're all snakes and we're like shedding our skin and introducing someone new. So when you first start putting out content, you're going to look like a jabroni at first, and you're going to get that ensuite of negativity from potentially your past, because you're basically walking into a new you, and people don't like seeing you try something new because, like you said, it makes them feel insecure, and it's gonna be a nightmare for you in the beginning. It's just the truth. But what happens is after year 1, after year 2, by year 3, that's your new identity.
Yep. It's funny because there's people that don't even know me, or I've met one time, and dude, they're liking every video, they're commenting, they don't even know me. And sometimes it's the people that have known you for like such a long time, for whatever reason, just don't like your stuff, don't support you. And it's just kind of crazy how that is, until it becomes more like familiar to them that, hey, 2-3 years have passed and this is who this person is now. They're no longer trying to be somebody that they're not. They actually are who they are, expressing who they are.
Totally. And then you get to the point where if you don't post, you get anxiety.
Yeah.
It's like the gym. When you're really into the gym, if you don't go to the gym, like, you feel weird. I mean, me and Sky, we always talk about it. It's like you wake up, you just go to the gym. And sometimes you don't even work out hard. But if you don't go to the gym, you just feel like a piece of shit. You're like, I didn't go to the gym.
Yep.
And if you're not putting out a new podcast, if you're not putting out new content, you feel like shit because you're not putting yourself out there. And I get nervous. Not nervous is the wrong word. I get scared of just the whole idea of not living up to my potential. Dude,
the biggest thing that I fear is being average. That is the number one thing. I mean, literally everybody should feel that way, where like, look, you have one life to live. If you're not trying to do something big, you're not trying to have an impact in the world, trying to make the world a better place, then like, what are you doing? I hate when I go home to the 518, and I'll never forget this. Like 3 years ago, we're at the Saratoga racetrack, and I'm like, hey man, what's up? I haven't seen you in so long, talking about somebody. And he's like, oh man, I'm doing well. I'm just coasting. And like, just something about that just like irked me. And I was like, coasting? Like, bro, we're not coasting. We're climbing.
George Hurst says the only way to coast
is downhill. It's downhill, baby.
It's interesting to continue what you're saying.
No, I was going to say, like, that ain't me. And I don't want those people like around me. I want people that are going to hold me accountable and like take this journey, with me.
I love what you said there, because like when you say I don't want to be average, it's definitely a statement that could be received as being like a megala douche. Like, oh, I don't want to be average. But I think what's interesting to deconstruct that a little bit is that when you think about our school system, when you follow the school system by the T, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a job, they tell you what your job is, and then you work that job for 30 years. Like, that was the old way of thinking. And I know for me, I wasn't passionate about 90% of the things I learned in school. Now 99% of the things. I loved the human and social interaction of school. I loved that.
Yep.
But I just never cared about physics, chemistry, math, or any of that shit. Like, I just did what I had to do to get by.
Agree.
So I think a lot of times people just don't take the philosophy that you keep learning after school.
Most people die at 22 years old.
Because it's like, college. If you're naturally curious, and Joe Rogan, the GOAT, always talks about like he wishes he could live 10 different lives because there's 10 different like lives of things that he wants to explore. Like, if you actually love something and you're curious, you don't stop because you're so freaking curious.
Yep.
And if you haven't found that curiosity, it's because you're not trying to find that curiosity. You got to find yourself, which is another reason why I even started this podcast. Because I wanted to interview all of the most successful people in every field of that my ADD brain thinks is awesome.
Yep.
To hopefully one day find what I'm passionate about. And oh, by the way, I'm going to build my brand at the same time. So I think that's a really interesting thing. It's almost like the school system indoctrinates people to think that coast lifestyle. And you really need to step out of it. You need to find something that you can watch YouTube videos all freaking night because you're so fired up about learning.
Yep. Well, look, when you're younger, right? They ask you a question and they say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you listen to all the kids and they say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a scientist. I want to be a professor. What they should be asking is, what do you want your life to look like? Because that's more of like a detailed, clear picture of what your life is ultimately going to be. I feel like when I'm like at my best, I have this vision board at home. I have all the things that I see in my future that I want to get. And I set these really, really high goals. And dude, I can't even remember the last time that I actually hit one. And it's going to be sound a little weird, but my goals are like so big. And there's times where like I'll like barely miss it. But I'm just reminding myself that, hey, it's a stretch goal. And I want to go out and I want to live to my full potential. So going back to what you were saying before about the whole average thing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being average. But, dude, we were meant for so much more than that.
Totally. Yeah. There's so much fun things in life, man. I think now, though, like, I think how you treat people and what you put into the universe is going to depend on how big that blowback is.
Yep.
And this is a great example. When Vima shut down, so Vima, the network marketing company, was one of the most controversial things in college. You know, you're either in it or you friggin' hated it, you know? So when Vima shut down, naturally, a lot of people got a lot of shit, you know? Oh, like, because most people want to see people fail, especially if someone's flaunting a 3 Series Beamer running around. Like, that's a douchey move.
Mm-hmm.
When it shut down, I didn't have a single person ever hit me up and say, like, I told you so, like, glad it's like no negativity. And I like to think that's because I never was a douche to people. I was never like trying to screw anyone over. I was genuinely fired up about the opportunity. And to this day, everyone that was in that company still says it was like the largest business fraternity anyone ever joined. And it was the School of Hard Knocks, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. And oh, by the way, they ended up winning the court case, but at the expense of bankrupting the company. But anyways, like that whole concept just got me excited because you're a genuine dude. This is why I've always vibed with you, is that you're just a good guy. And like Sky, he's a good guy. Like Parzak, good guy. Matt Dodge, good guy. Like people that are good guys are easy to hang out with, and they're genuine. And you have to be genuine to find genuine. And I think that's a big secret to your success, is that you're ambitious, but you're extremely genuine. And when you combine those two things, you create lifelong partners in business and life and all of that.
Yep. Well, I think the biggest thing that I kind of think about myself is that, dude, I'm just authentic. I am who I am. You know, there's people that might not like me for no reason. Like, okay, that's cool. But I'm the type of person, like, let's go back to high school for a second. So there's lots of cliques in high school, right? Whether it's in a movie or actually like how it actually was. Dude, I was that guy that got along with everybody. I hate when people don't like somebody for no reason. You've met those people before, and it's such a big turnoff when you can't just walk into a room and have a good conversation with somebody and just be like respectful, whether you like them or not. I feel like I've always known like who I could have as my friend and who I choose not to have as my friend. But I'm always going to be genuine, always going to be respectful. The only time I would ever get disrespectful with somebody is if you just, disrespect me first. And so I think that's just a good quality to have, where like if you're just positive on life, like, dude, just walk around happy, good energy, like what could go wrong?
I can't think of a more damn good day philosophy than that right there. So, Drew, I know we could talk for hours, but if you could go back in time and you could have talked to 16-year-old Drew and you could have told him, something that could have saved you a ton of time, money, heartache, headache, anything, like what do you think that current you would talk to the 16-year-old you and tell him?
I would say probably going back to what we talked about earlier, probably partying less and just, I would still go to college. So I know we talked about how college and school itself, it's probably not the right direction for a lot of people these days. If I were to go back, I would still do it, but I would be more business focused in a way where I wish I would actually read books. You know, you've been to my place. I have a kind of like a little massive like library now. All those
Lots of leather-bound books.
all those books that I read have been after college. I didn't read a single book in college. So I wish that I actually absorbed meaningful knowledge before I was 22, 23 years old. Because that's when I really started to grow. When I first graduated school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was very scared. You know, my parents wanted me to get into like a corporate job. I had some other relatives that were like, hey, I got, you know, a state job for you working for the government. I wanted nothing to do with that. I wanted to get in the sales, wanted to make money. And I started reading a lot, not just about sales, but business, money, entrepreneurship, marketing, just all, you know, self-improvement stuff. Because at the end of the day, you know, you can't make more money or grow if you're not improving yourself, right? So that'll be your limitation is your self-improvement.
Drew Lasky, how can everyone follow you and follow the We Do What We Want journey?
So you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on TikTok at Drew_Lasky. And you can follow the We Do What We Want. It's the Instagram as of right now is __WDWWW __. So very confusing right now. Trying to get the, what do you call it? Not the domains, but the
URL?
No,
the handles.
The handles. Trying to get the handles from other people that are inactive. So that's what it is right now. The website is being built right now, and that will fully launch in 2024. And I'm super excited to see where this journey takes us.
It's a pleasure, my friend. As always, life's a gift and you're a present. Appreciate you, man. Thanks
Cheers,
for coming
brother.
on the show. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you for having me.